At 43 years old, Tom Brady is entering his 10th Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at their home stadium against the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 55. The 6-time Super Bowl winner, 3-time league MVP, 4-time Super Bowl MVP, and 14-time Pro Bowler has been labelled one of, if not the greatest, in the league. After an underdog story of getting his new team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, into the Super Bowl and the first team to play at their home Super Bowl in the history of the Super Bowl and the NFL, it was a great story and it just establishes Tom Brady as one of, if not the GOAT of the entire NFL. Meanwhile, across the pond, British Formula One driver Sir Lewis Hamilton is also being labelled one of, if not the greatest, in his sport of Formula One. Lewis Hamilton, with his 95 wins, 98 pole positions, 165 podiums and 7 Drivers' World Championships. With those records, Lewis Hamilton is fast approaching the status of GOAT of Formula One. After Brady's amazing victory against Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers in the NFC Championship game, Lewis Hamilton took to Instagram to show his admiration and congratulate Tom Brady on his victory and getting his team to his home Super Bowl. Many other celebrities shared their stories on Instagram saying it was like one GOAT from another. So today we are going to be discussing why Tom Brady is the NFL's Lewis Hamilton. Now today I'll be talking about the comparisons between Tom Brady and Lewis Hamilton's career, which I actually believe are pretty similar in the way that they've had impacts on the teams, in terms of their own progression through the sport and their statuses as the GOAT of their respective fields. Tom Brady thought of as the GOAT of NFL and Sir Lewis Hamilton thought of as the GOAT of Formula One. I'll be comparing their careers as of course Tom went through the New England Patriots, winning Super Bowls and of course getting his new team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, into Super Bowl 55 as we approach Super Bowl Sunday this weekend. I'll be talking about Lewis Hamilton's career when he went to Mercedes and of course all throughout his career at Mercedes, winning the World Championship both for himself and the team. I'll be leaving the McLaren days out as I think that the Mercedes fit are better to compare against Tom Brady. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let me know in the comment section below, do you think there is a comparison here? And also, what is your stances to Tom Brady as the GOAT of the NFL and Lewis Hamilton as the GOAT of Formula One? Of course, who is the GOAT is subjective, so let me know in the comment section below, but this is what I'm hearing. Of course, Tom very high up in NFL as one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time, and the same for Lewis. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, starting all the way back in the year 2000, the New England Patriots drafted Tom Brady as the 199th pick in the 2000 NFL draft. He was drafted as a quarterback coming from the University of Michigan. Now, Tom Brady was drafted never to be thought of as the starting QB very, very soon. He was, of course, drafted in their quarterback ranks. Hopefully with a bit of grooming after a few years, he would of course take the reins, but he was never thought of to be an instant starter. It was a bit of a gamble as well, as through the draft in Indianapolis just earlier on in that year, Tom did not perform that well, and it was a big gamble for the New England Patriots to draft this guy, especially so late on in the draft. This can be compared to when Lewis Hamilton left McLaren to go to Mercedes at the end of the 2012 season for 2013. Lewis Hamilton had driven for McLaren, of which he'd been in the team since he was 13 years old, entered in 2007, won the championship in 2008 with a good season competing against Kimi Raikkonen in 2007. After a good few years with the team, he decided to leave and go to the German team Mercedes in 2013. This was a big gamble for Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton to do this, to leave his team of McLaren and go to Mercedes. They were very much starting out as well. They re-entered Formula One in 2010 with Michael Schumacher and Nico Rosberg, and with 2 seasons under the belt of not the best results, was it a championship team? Was it the best decision for Lewis Hamilton to do? At this point, we thought it was a big risk for Lewis to leave McLaren and go to Mercedes, just as it was for New England to draft Tom Brady. There is a comparison there. Starting off, New England didn't know if Tom Brady was going to work, just like we thought Lewis Hamilton wasn't going to work for 2013. The New England Patriots record in 2000, the first year of Tom Brady, was 5-11. They finished bottom of the division and missed out on the playoff. This can be compared to Mercedes' record in 2013, the first year of Lewis Hamilton. Only a solitary win for Lewis Hamilton came in that year, and that was at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Very much deserved, but only one win in that season compared to multiple wins that he could have had in the season beforehand with McLaren and of course competing for the championship. No wins came for his teammate at this point, German driver Nico Rosberg. So much like Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, Mercedes didn't get the best result. New England were at the bottom of the division with not very good results, and that was the same for Mercedes. Was it a bad decision for Tom Brady to go to the Patriots? Was it a bad decision for Lewis to go to Mercedes? Only time would tell. But their first seasons in their respective sports weren't going too well. Now fast forward a year to the playoffs of the 2001 NFL season. We approached Super Bowl 36, the 2002 Super Bowl, Tom Brady's second season in the NFL. It was a very good season for the New England Patriots, getting into the Super Bowl alongside the Los Angeles Rams, and it worked out very, very well. Tom Brady started that game and they beat the Los Angeles Rams 20 points to 17. A very close game. It was settled with a field goal, but nevertheless a good performance by Tom Brady, who took over as QB1 and the captain of the team. A very good performance, and the New England Patriots, for the first time in the franchise's history, had won a Super Bowl. It was very good for Tom Brady, as he was now established at the team from Boston, and that can be compared to Lewis Hamilton. Fast forward a year from 2013, when the results weren't very good, he had won the World Drivers' Championship. Of course, in Formula 1, the big change had come when the V8 were replaced by the 1.6 litre V6 hybrid engines. Of course, that Mercedes were able to capitalise over Red Bull, who of course had won the previous 4 driver and constructor world championships. Lewis and Nico both had very strong seasons, but of course it was Lewis Hamilton, the British driver who went from McLaren to Mercedes, took a risk very much like New England did with Tom Brady, who came out on top. Lewis Hamilton won the world championship comfortably over Nico Rosberg, his teammate, and Sebastian Vettel, Kimi Raikkonen and Fernando Alonso, and won the 2014 championship in Abu Dhabi. The British flag was on top of the new Mercedes car. He was world champion, and this was the second world championship for Lewis Hamilton, of course, after his 2008 world championship with McLaren. 2003 was an average year for Tom Brady and the Patriots, but in 2004 and Super Bowl 38, New England were back in it again, this time against the Carolina Panthers. Tom Brady, after having a good few years under his belt, was very strong in that game, throwing for touchdowns left, right and centre, and a very good result to finish and capitalise off a good result against the Carolina Panthers, beating them 32 points to 29. Again, it was a close game, just like it was in Tom Brady's first Super Bowl, but he was now a double Super Bowl world champion. Again, this can be compared to 2015. Now, unlike Brady, of course, Lewis Hamilton's result and Mercedes' result came 1 year after 2014. And this, of course, is when Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes both won the 2015 Drivers and the 2015 Constructors' World Championships, respectively. Lewis Hamilton again getting the edge over his teammate Nico Rosberg and newly Ferrari driver Sebastian Vettel at this point. And he comfortably won the race and won the championship at the US Grand Prix in Austin. The team, of course, was getting fiery between Lewis and Nico, but nevertheless, Lewis Hamilton came out victorious, and also Mercedes came out victorious. Lewis was double world champion with Mercedes, and of course, triple on his career, and Mercedes were double Constructors' Championship winner in 2014 and winner in 2015. The comparisons there between Lewis and Tom, and now that they have 2 Super Bowls and 2 World Championships behind themselves, and that risk is looking very, very strong at the moment as they head after going from 2, can they go and win 3 Super Bowls and 3 World Championships? It looks like they could after a dominant season by the New England Patriots. They lined up into Super Bowl 39, the 2005 Super Bowl against the Philadelphia Eagles. It was a big rivalry at this point, and again, even though it was a very close game with just a field goal separating them, the New England Patriots came out ahead, winning the game 24 points to 21. Tom Brady getting the edge over Philadelphia in this game. And even though this isn't going to go to 2016, again, we'll get onto that very soon, this can just be added to Lewis's dominance with the team. Of course, Tom Brady walking away now with 3 Super Bowls. It can also kind of be compared to Lewis Hamilton, as after 2015, he had 3 World Championships. But, as I say, we'll get on to 2016 in a moment. Tom Brady now having 3 Super Bowls, along with his many Super Bowl MVPs and NFL MVPs and Pro Bowl achievements. Again, for Tom and Lewis, respectively, it was looking really, really good, as they were both 3-time champions, 3 Super Bowls and 3 drivers. It was looking great from that risk that was taken all of those years ago. It was a big 10-year period before the New England Patriots won the Super Bowl after Super Bowl 39, but they had very good playoff contention positions, number 1 seeds, winning the division, winning the championship, and making Super Bowls again. But it was Super Bowl 49 was the next time that they won a Super Bowl, and that was against the Seattle Seahawks. They beat the Seattle Seahawks 28 points to 24 with a brilliant final charge by Seattle. This was a famous one where Russell Wilson throws instead of handing it off to be ran. It is intercepted by Malcolm Butler of the New England Patriots, and they walk away victorious, stopping Seattle from scoring. Now again, this can't be compared to 2016, as again I will get onto that in a little bit, but it just adds to Lewis Hamilton's dominance, and if anything, this can be actually attributed to after 2016, of course, 2018, 19 and 20, when of course he wins the World Championship yet again. Of course, Mercedes win the World Championship yet again. Mercedes were on form at this point, and actually this can go to the 2016 Constructors, but it's not going to be to the drivers, as again we'll get onto that in a little bit. But again, Tom Brady now is number 4. It is looking really dominant for the man who was in the New England Patriots and established as at this point, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But there's still a long way that this guy can go. Now going on to Super Bowl 51, which is my favourite Super Bowl that I've been able to watch, and of course the greatest comeback in NFL Super Bowl history. This was ran between the New England Patriots and the Atlanta Falcons down at the NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. A brilliant show by the New England Patriots, and I'd say one of the best Super Bowls that I've been able to watch. At halftime, it was 28 points to 3 to the Atlanta Falcons over the New England Patriots. And by the end of regulation time, it was 28-28, and the first Super Bowl to go into overtime with the New England Patriots getting the edge over their team. They finished 34 points to 28. A brilliant show, a brilliant dominance by every single person at that New England Patriots team, including Tom Brady again, who was just established himself as one of the strongest players in the NFL. And this can be compared to the 2018 Formula One season. Sebastian Vettel has a 40-point lead on Lewis Hamilton heading into the German Grand Prix, which is Sebastian Vettel's home race. Now, Sebastian Vettel moved to Ferrari in 2015, and things weren't going his way. He was challenging in 2017 for the championship, but again, he was nowhere near where he should have been, and of course, a very bad 2016 from himself. But in 2018, he was finally there, and he finally had the edge over Lewis Hamilton, the man who, of course, he'd been challenging both in the McLaren and, of course, in the Mercedes. Sebastian Vettel was looking promising to win the World Championship, even though we were only halfway through the season. But then at the German Grand Prix in 2018, he bins it into the wall and things go south for Sebastian. It goes Lewis's favour all the way up, especially in that race when he comes from 14th to win the 2018 German Grand Prix. And in Singapore, he finally takes the lead and then goes on to win the World Championship a few races before the season closes in Abu Dhabi. Now, I like to compare 2018 to Super Bowl 51 as Sebastian, as the Atlanta Falcons, has the biggest lead at this point. Lewis is trailing behind. It doesn't look like he can do it. And then, of course, he comes through to win the 2018 World Championship. So, Super Bowl 51 is compared to the 2018 World Championship. Again, we've missed out a few years, including 2016. I will get onto that. I promise I'll get onto that. But 2018 is my comparison for Super Bowl 51. Now we get to Super Bowl 52, which is my comparison to the 2016 World Championship. Of course, the New England Patriots enter the Super Bowl once again. Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and everyone else at the team very strong and comfortable that they can win that game in Minneapolis. Considering their opponents are the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that they have beaten before, a team that haven't won the Super Bowl before, a team who, to be honest, got through on merit and just being in a bit of an easy division. The Philadelphia Eagles showed a good promise and they went hammer and tongue throughout the entirety of those 60 minutes. But with Philadelphia having some good players, including the Philly special, Tom Brady getting sacked more than usual, it ends up going Philadelphia's way. They win the game 41 points to 33, and even though New England were looking promising to win this, they do lose it. It doesn't stop their streak as they are back once again, but they have to finally go to be second best and they are not on top anymore. Tom Brady walks off as one of the only Super Bowls he has walked off on which he hasn't won the game. This is my comparison to the 2016 Formula One season, when of course Lewis Hamilton loses the Drivers' Championship to Nico Rosberg, his teammate. Lewis finally has to play second best. The first season he has to do this, so he's had to play second best to before, and actually the first season in his entirety Formula One career, he's never been beaten by a teammate to the World Championship. Of course, Jenson Button, his teammate at McLaren, had won it before he got to the team. This was the first time Lewis had to do this at Mercedes also, and his teammate, the guy who he'd actually grown up with and driven with, of course, a close friend, German driver Nico Rosberg, he had finally beaten him to the World Championship. Once again, Lewis Hamilton bounced back in the years afterwards, and of course Mercedes had a good result, winning the 2016 Constructors' Championship also, but Lewis had to play second best to Nico Rosberg, and in this way Tom Brady had to play second best to Nick Foles, a backup quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, and did not win the Super Bowl in that year. Now going to Super Bowl 53, and this is the last Super Bowl that New England have gone to, and the most recent, Tom Brady has won, of course, before what happens on Sunday. Once again, the New England Patriots entered Super Bowl 53 being the strongest team. The odds were all in their favour to beat their opponents, the NFC champions, the Los Angeles Rams. And much like the Philadelphia Eagles, it was seen that the Los Angeles Rams had an easy run-in in the playoffs and an easy seed to get through to the Super Bowl. Now, the scoreboard didn't light up like it had against Philadelphia Eagles or the Atlanta Falcons. They won 13 points to 3 with only one touchdown being thrown by Tom Brady to Julian Edelman in that game. It was very much a field goal game in Atlanta, but New England Patriots had won and Tom Brady gets his 6th Super Bowl. Along with other stats as well, Super Bowl MVP, NFL MVP and Pro Bowler, Tom Brady has 6 and becomes the most successful quarterback in NFL history. Now, of course, in real time, Lewis Hamilton won the 2020 Turkish Grand Prix and his 7th World Championship. Now, once again, along with his other stats, Lewis Hamilton now becomes one of the most successful drivers. In Formula 1, Michael Schumacher is tied with Lewis with 7 World Championships apiece. Something that, of course, Lewis Hamilton might be going after in the future. As this episode is coming out in Formula 1, he has not signed a contract with Mercedes, but it's looking like Lewis will do. And in other stats as well, he's either matched Michael Schumacher, beaten it, or absolutely excelled it. It just adds to the tally that Lewis Hamilton is one of the greatest, if not the GOAT of Formula 1, and Tom Brady is one of, if not the GOAT of the NFL. And the final thing as well, which is the end of Tom Brady's stats, but could be the start of Lewis Hamilton's, is the fact that when Tom Brady left the New England Patriots and he signed for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it was seen as a bit of a very, very bold move. Why was Tom Brady going there? Why was he leaving the New England Patriots dynasty? Why was he leaving Bill Belichick? Why was he going down to Florida? And what could he achieve with Tampa Bay? Now, of course, when he left the New England Patriots, he was 42 years old and he'd been in the NFL since 2000. Was he just going down to Florida to retire? What was he doing down there? And yeah, what was he hoping to achieve? He brought Rob Gronkowski, tight end that he worked with before, and of course a multiple Super Bowl winner with him from New England, leaving Bill Belichick behind in Boston. And what was he hoping to achieve now that he'd swapped his silver jersey in for red? This can be compared to, again, like I said from the draft, when Lewis Hamilton went from McLaren to Mercedes. It was seen as a big move. And yes, why was he going there? It was still Mercedes. That can be compared to when he brought Gronk down there. It was still a Mercedes power, much like it was at McLaren. But what was Lewis hoping to achieve at Mercedes? And of course, going back to Tom Brady, is the fact that through all of the adversity and through all of the underdog and being a wild card and one of the only teams to get into the Super Bowl from a wild card, the last one being the New York Giants back in 2007, Tom Brady has gotten the Tampa Bay Buccaneers into the Super Bowl and the first team to get to their home Super Bowl in the NFL franchise history. Of course, the Super Bowl 55 being ran at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa Bay. They face off against reigning Super Bowl champions Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. It is going to be a good game when they do that. But the fact that they were able to get there and beat some big opponents, including the NFC Championship opponents of Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, was absolutely amazing. And that underdog story was absolutely amazing. And that can just be compared to Lewis Hamilton's career at Mercedes. The way that the team has been able to turn around and that way that team has been able to bounce to go from an average team with Michael and Nico to an absolute championship dominating team that they have has been absolutely incredible. Of course, the regulations have helped, but nevertheless, Lewis Hamilton had a great impact on that team, much like Tom Brady has. And if Tom wins on Sunday, well, again, that'll just be another comparison. And if he is only thought of as maybe the best of all time, the greatest of all time, he's definitely got to be if he wins on Sunday. So there we go, that is a comparison between Tom Brady and Lewis Hamilton on their teams of New England and Mercedes. It has been great from them, and with their results has come money, has come more exposure, and has come a greater dynasty. The New England dynasty has grown with Brady, and of course Mercedes have grown with Lewis Hamilton. But there's one more comparison we need to make between the two teams. Now, players or drivers, what have you, are nothing without a good manager behind you. And of course, that's what Tom Brady and Lewis Hamilton have both had in the shape of Bill Belichick at the New England Patriots with Tom Brady and Toto Wolff at Mercedes. Now, Bill Belichick worked in the NFL before with many teams, but it was his work at the New England Patriots which cemented himself as one of the greatest coaches. His work with Tom Brady has been absolutely incredible, and he has become one of the best coaches, not just in NFL, but in America and in sport and history. And that is the same as Toto Wolff as well. When he entered Mercedes in 2013, he was just an average boss. He'd worked in Formula 1 before, but he wasn't thought of as anything incredible. But his work with Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg has cemented himself as well as one of the greatest bosses. And with a dynasty of Mercedes and, of course, Belichick's with the New England Patriots, they have created amazing teams. But of course, when Tom Brady left the New England Patriots, Bill Belichick was left behind in Boston. They brought in Carolina Panthers Super Bowl quarterback Cam Newton, and for the first time in over a decade, the New England Patriots did not make the playoffs. So the dynasty of what they can do without Tom Brady has been shown as not very good, and they definitely needed Tom. So the question is now, when Lewis Hamilton leaves Mercedes, which could be very, very soon, as said at the time of this recording, Lewis Hamilton has not signed with Mercedes. It just shows, what can Mercedes do without that? They still have Toto Wolff at the helm. They still have a very good team that they have been built up from Lewis Hamilton. They still have their many Constructor World Championships and drivers, and now the most successful constructor. But what can they do without Lewis Hamilton when he leaves the team? If it's compared to Belichick and the New England Patriots, not very well. So we'll have to see if New England can bounce back next year, and we'll also have to see what Mercedes can do when Lewis leaves. So there we go, that is the end of the comparison. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about the comparisons there. Is it very fair? And what do you think about Lewis and Tom, New England, Tampa Bay, and Mercedes, and everything that has been said in this video? Of course, we head into Super Bowl 55 this weekend between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Kansas City Chiefs. It should be a very, very tight game. I am going for the Kansas City Chiefs to win. Patrick Mahomes, one of the best quarterbacks at this time. Thank you very much for watching. We hope that you enjoyed the Super Bowl this weekend. If you are new to this video, please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you'll be notified every time we upload. If you are new and you haven't seen our channel before, please go and check it out, the GP Debate Show. We talk about Formula 1. If you're an NFL fan and you don't know much about Formula 1, well, this is the place for you. As an NFL fan, I'll be able to help you out throughout the season. Also, enjoy the Super Bowl this weekend, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, we'll see you later.